Hello, my beautiful guys and dolls, and welcome to an episode of Before the Curtain. I'm your host, Abie Campbell, and we will be diving into the world of live entertainment. We will uncover what it takes to put on a show, and artists will reveal their stories of how their creations went from idea to reality. We are determined to uncover everything that happens before the curtain. What is going on, my beautiful people? Today we get to talk to an incredibly talented performer and someone I absolutely adore. He's spread his talents all across the world and across the city of Las Vegas, where he currently resides. Singer, dancer, and master of ceremonies, this artist was part of the original cast of Rouge, the sexiest show in Las Vegas, and Dita Las Vegas, a jubilant review. He continually finds himself center stage, showcasing his vocal abilities as a headliner in venues like Club Havana, Gypsy Las Vegas, Nowhere Lounge, and more. Having worked with him firsthand, I can and will attest. He puts his heart and soul into everything he does, which is why I have him here today, to share his story of his part in creating GLITZ, the Showkids Show. It's a show that pays homage to the queer history of Las Vegas, entertainment of icons of past and present, with the core principle of embracing who you are and living free to be who you want. Ladies and gentlemen, guys and dolls, please help me welcome the man of the hour, Mr. Estevan Velasco.
Yay! And the crowd goes wild.
Insert applause here. So, we're going to get into it. GLITZ.
Mm-hmm.
GLITZ. When did the idea first come to you?
Well, thank you for that introduction.
Yes,
by the
you're
way.
so welcome.
Very nice of you. So GLITZ came about just in a conversation that I had with Ferly. Ferly Prado is an incredible human, number one, but an amazing entertainer, performer, creator, and she is the dance captain for Dita. So that's how I got to meet her and get to know her. And she pulled me aside one day and she just said, I love your voice. I love how you sing. And, I want to create something with you, because she has her own business and, what she wants to do for herself as a choreographer. So that's why she approached me. She just wants to put her thing together with mine and help me market myself more as a singer rather than only as a dancer, which is what I've been doing predominantly pretty much the last 10 years. But, as you grow older, your body can't necessarily do all of the things that it could do when you were younger. So I'm definitely feeling like that now that I'm in my 30s, and I'm just such a full out performer. So
you are a full out performer.
Now my knees and my back are paying for that. But I have always been a singer too, and I've just been really shy and anxious every time I sing, because I just didn't feel that I had the confidence to push myself as a lead singer, at least. But Ferly saw something in me, and so that's why she kind of put the idea in my head. And so from that conversation, I remembered another conversation that I had with my friend Garrett. Garrett is the events coordinator for Gypsy and Piranha. And Gypsy and Piranha are sister venues. They're right across the street from each other in the Fruit Loop out here in Las Vegas. And so Gypsy just opened their new venue. They just rebuilt it up last year. And so he said, I'm in charge of putting the entertainment up in here, and I want to bring performers in here to, showcase whatever. This venue used to be a place back in the 70s and 80s where all of the show kids would come and hang out and perform. And so I want to bring that back.
And the conversation you had with Garrett was before the conversation you had with Ferly.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're pieces are falling into place.
Yeah. So I just thought about those conversations that I had, and I think it's cool that Garrett wants to utilize the local talent that's already here to put up whatever entertainment that he can in that venue. And so whenever Ferly brought that up to me to say, I want to make a show with you, then that's when I thought of Garrett, and we just all sat together, had a conversation, and that's where GLITZ was born. And it was Garrett's idea to talk about the history of gay Las Vegas. because we're in a gay establishment in Gypsy. And so with that idea is where we developed all of the stories that we put into our show. And glitz, that word comes from a conversation that Elvis and Liberace had, which I learned from Garrett, and then I researched online, and it's definitely true. So it's a
Garrett
cool story.
knew. Garrett knew his stuff.
It's a cool story. So not a lot of people know that Liberace was technically the first headlining artist to have a residency show in Las Vegas. So whenever you think of a residency show, you think of people like Cher and Shania Twain and Celine Dion.
Mm-hmm.
And none of those artists would have that kind of show if it wasn't for Liberace's blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool that Liberace was a queer person. So that is really cool for our community to know that it was a queer person who really like started what entertainment is now out here, for sure. And so with Elvis, when Elvis was like coming up and becoming who Elvis became, he came out to Vegas and he went to Liberace's show, and obviously Liberace's show was extravagant and big and beautiful and glamorous. And so that was what was missing from Elvis's show. And so that was what Liberace told Elvis. He said, all you need to do is add glitz to your show, and that's what will make it Vegas. So then obviously Elvis started wearing his sequined body jumpsuits, and it just made it even bigger. So that was why we decided to call our show Glitz, because of that conversation, but because it kind of makes you think like you just need to make everything a little gay. And then it'll be more colorful, more shiny, more sparkly. That's all you got to do. That's all Vegas is.
That's the tagline of your show that you didn't put in all the headlines, right? You add a little gay.
Just add it, make it a little gay. Yeah, that's so in my head, that's what I think of when I think of glitz. But I love that we are telling these gay stories that a lot of people don't really know about, like Liberace's story.
Yeah, so like because I unfortunately didn't get to see it, although I'm going to see it whenever you bring it back, because we'll talk about that later. But so walk us through like the show. Like for people who maybe aren't in Vegas, if anybody's listening that's like, wait, this sounds so fun, I want to know, like walk us through what the show is. Like people come into the venue and
they're going to get high quality, immersive experience, and you're definitely going to be entertained. So we've done the show 3 times, and every time it's been different. But we always keep the same formula as having live music, live singers, dancers, and we're always telling stories. So we're always touching on some kind of history, whatever the history is. And right in our show, we're always talking about Vegas history and gay history. So we're like putting that together.
And so does have the 3 times that you've done it so far, does the songs change, like the layout of the show or the flow of the show?
Sometimes it does, yes. Okay. Sometimes we keep certain things that are like really high energy, big numbers that we know people will love. But it all just depends on the venue and I guess the time of the year that we put it on. So the first time we did it, it was really a tribute to Gypsy and the nightclub and the history that was there in that specific venue. The second time we did it, we were hired to do it at the Virgin Hotel for Pride Month. So that was cool because we still use the same concept with the dancers and the live music and the specialty acts and the singers, but we were telling not just the gay stories of like Vegas icons, but we were telling our own gay stories. So like I was able to host and talk about what my experience has been as a gay man growing up in small conservative military based towns and feeling like I couldn't really be myself. But when I did feel like myself, I was locked in my room blasting Britney Spears music. And so
Thank you, Britney.
Now, I know, love you, Britney. Now, as an adult, I more comfortable in myself and more confident, and I did a whole section tributed to Britney Spears, and that was really cool because obviously she's my idol. She's the person that I looked up to my whole life. But Ferly got to perform with her. She was in the Work Bitch music video. And so she taught us all of the choreography from the music video. So I was just already living my dream just because of that. So that was cool for me to do. But like other people had their own stories and they're all local performers out here too. So that was what made the show so special, was focusing on everyone's own personal stories. And that was what the show was about. And then the last time we did it again at Gypsy, but it was more of like a cabaret styled show, not a full on production. I mean, we still had dancing and live music and all of the things, but it was a little bit more intimate. So it's different every time, like I said, because of whatever event is happening or whatever venue we're in. But we always stay true to keeping it personal to the performers that are in the show. And that's why I love it so much, because it's always going to be different,
That gives a lot of room for creative expression as well. Like, because also I don't know how much work that was for you to kind of accommodate the changes of the show to where you were at or kind of what season it was. But, and I don't know if you guys will keep that theme, but if you do, that also allows a lot of like, right now we're feeling more this way of like this production number. Let's put this one in tonight, or let's put this one in for the next one instead. Or like, what if we do this? It sounds like there's a lot of openness for that kind of like, I'm not feeling that right now, which is cool, which not a lot of shows like can do, or like, right. Because there's so much history and so many stories that can only be told. And how long is the show?
We try to keep it under 90 minutes. So around there, like 75 to 90
75 to 90. There's only so many stories that can be told within that time. So it sounds like there's a way to evolve it and rotate it so you can always have that outlet of all the stories, which is really cool. So like, what are some of the numbers, or like, how does the show, like, can you spill the tea?
Yeah. So as far as gay history with the show that we like to touch on, like I said, we like to talk about Liberace and his influence on residencies. We have like a section of the show that's about residencies in Las Vegas and the gay icons that are headlining them. So Liberace is the first person that we talk about, and then we go into the Britney Spears tribute because she had a residency out here. We touch on Lady Gaga, Cher, Tina Turner, and all of these women they all had residencies out here. Even if they're not gay, they were big advocates for the community. So that's like one section. We have another section that is, we tribute Judy Garland and Liza Minnelli. And the reason why we have that in there is because one of our hosts and singers and dancers, her name is Sierra Bliss. And I met her in Dita's show. We now work together in Dita's show at Voltaire, which you guys need to come and see. We just opened it this last weekend and it's beautiful.
Let's go advertising. You're like, wait, side note, come watch me. Truth though. If anyone's around, go see Dita.
Yes, you will love it. And she's like super big on jazz, and she just loves like New York culture and everything that goes with Broadway and things like that. So, that's what makes it personal for her. So that's why I'm saying we're like adding everyone's personal stories and their personalities into the show to make it what it is. But yeah, it's just it's immersive because you're like in the middle of everything happening. There's always live music. That's like my thing as a performer. If I'm singing anywhere, I always want to have a live band.
Live band changes the vibe of the show.
Yeah, it just like makes it so much more full, I think, in my opinion. So
much more energy, so much more like, yeah, absolutely.
And I just want to like provide jobs for my friends too that's another thing that if I can do that for my community, like that's the main thing. I just want everybody to work. I want us all to succeed and you know,
because
pay our bills.
it's always a possibility for whoever is financing the event, right? To just be like, no, we're going to use tracks.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, everywhere you go has tracks. Like when you're sitting in a restaurant and you're listening to the music playing, it's most of the time just Spotify or whatever. It's all tracks.
Right.
But if you have something live, it just like adds a little more of a soul to it, you know? There's more life.
There's that humanness. There's that
Mhm.
like, yeah, that human quality that their story is on stage
Yeah.
as well, right?
So that's what I always try to implement in shows that I'm a part of, especially shows that I'm creating and building. I just want live music.
Was that like, so sorry, we're going to jump around a lot because, you know, creatives, we can't, well, and we have to. So like back through the process of creating the show, was that something that you had to advocate for as soon as you were like, I want a live band? They were like, yeah, no problem.
Pretty much, yeah. That was something
Okay.
that I said right away. I have a friend out here who is he's like my music soulmate, pretty much. He's someone that I've known for a really long time. I met him on cruise ships, and when we worked together then, we used to just jam out together, and he knew that I wanted to practice my singing, so we would go to the piano bar and he would just play and I would sing, and we had so much fun. Little did we know it was going to turn into what we've got going out here, which is amazing. So his name is Oscar, and
Thank you, Oscar.
I know, Oscar from Colombia, and he is just a genius when it comes to a lot of things, but definitely music and music theory and creating charts. So before GLITZ even happened, we came together and we built product together called Curl Vibe, which is essentially a band, I guess like a cover band. And we do all funk, R&B, Motown style music because that's the kind of music that we both love to perform to. So we wrote a whole show together and he hired the musicians. We rented out a night at the space to put this show on. And so that was cool for me because that was my first time like really being a frontman singer, and I loved it. So he believed in me, he saw something in me, and he pushed me to push myself. And so, of course, whenever these conversations were happening about GLITZ with Garrett and Ferly, I had to bring Oscar into it.
Oh, yeah. At that point, he didn't have a choice. He was coming into it. I mean, you guys have this amazing relationship.
I know,
he's
so,
boy, you're on board.
Yeah. So he helped me create all of the charts and everything that we were playing with the musicians. And so, yeah, it all came together. It was a lot of parts. So I learned a lot because I was trying to coordinate the schedule for the dancers, for the musicians.
Right, because at that point you have Garrett with Gypsy, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have Ferly with...
Well, she had her company of dancers, but she was also choreographing and directing the rest of the cast, which was the dancers that live here and myself.
And then you were on music with Oscar, correct? Mm-hmm. And I guess everybody kind of contributed with like these songs, and...
Well, Ferly and I pretty much sat down to create the playlist because we were coming up with the numbers that we were talking about. So I guess we kind of start in a timeline. So like the beginning of the show, we intro the cast and we say this is what the show is going to be about. And then the first number is a story about Kenny Kerr. Do you know who Kenny Kerr is? Or have you heard of Kenny Kerr?
I think I've heard of Kenny Kerr.
So Kenny Kerr was the first drag queen to make drag a mainstream like art form here in Las Vegas. It wasn't RuPaul. It wasn't Frank Marino. Those are the people that we think of when we think of drag. But Kenny Kerr was before them. He had a show called Boylesque, which was a drag and female impersonator show. And Kenny Kerr was famous for his Barbra Streisand impersonation. So that's what made him super popular in the Vegas community as a whole, not just for the gay community, but for everyone. They loved him. So he had his show, and I don't know if you've seen there's like a red slipper, and it's like it's a light, like a sign.
Okay.
It's called the ruby red slipper or something. That was Kenny Kerr's
Okay. Yeah.
sign, I guess, that he had here in Las Vegas. And now it's in the Vegas Museum, the light museum, the neon museum. I think it's over there.
Okay.
So it's just a big high heel.
Cute.
And it's got lights all over it, and it's really, really cute. So that was Kenny Kerr's. And so that's the person that we tribute first at Gypsy in our show GLITZ. And I do a mashup of I Am What I Am, which is a Broadway musical song, with the Queen song Don't Stop Me Now. So I do like a little mashup of that, just to like acknowledge the queer, history and the culture, and to also acknowledge Kenny Kerr and what he did for our community out here. So that's what's cool about talking about Kenny in our show. So yeah, we start with him, and then we talk about the Rat Pack, we talk about like old vintage Vegas, but then we also talk about like people who you don't really get to see in tribute shows now, like Britney and Lady Gaga.
Right.
And so I think that's what makes our show fresh too. Oh, and then we're also talking about like how our city is turning into a sports city. So we talked about the Super Bowl. We brought in Usher, and I did like a little Usher medley. So I think that that's what makes our show so like fresh, is because we're talking about
current things as well as the history.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's really a lot of shows that are doing that right now.
No. And if there's one thing I learned about Vegas, there's nothing Vegas loves more than itself.
Mm-hmm.
And people love because there's so many, again, icons. There's so many incredible, massive things started in Vegas, and in many more ways than one.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what's also so cool about it, and the way that you guys also tie it into current events. And it's true, we are becoming a sports city.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Hopefully more tourists, hopefully more people come to shows.
We're just changing again. Vegas always goes through these big changes, like hotels are being blown up and they're building new things. That's just how it's always been.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been an ever-changing city. So we're going through that again. But I think that it's just going to be a change in what we're doing too as entertainers. I think that we will always have opportunities here. It's just going to be different opportunities now.
Oh yeah, they're going to evolve. But I feel like it also brings a lot more opportunity for shows like yours to pop up.
Mm-hmm.
Because if there wasn't big things closing, the little things wouldn't grab more attention now.
That's
or
true.
have more opportunity.
Yeah.
So I kind of believe that that's where Vegas is going, into this like shows like yours, things like, because it's cool and it's intimate and it's immersive, and they stand, they're in the show, and they get to see all that and experience it in a more intimate setting than being so far away from the dancers in the show. So we have this like team of 4 people, and was there at any point in this creation process that any of you guys like butt heads? 4 or 5 people, sorry.
I don't know, actually. It was very...
You were like, I want to do this song, and she was like, no.
Well, I mean...
Or we want to do it this way.
I think the only person that was like that was Garrett. He was like, let's do this, let's do that, I want to do this. I mean, you have to consider Garrett is not a performer professionally. He just respects what we do, which is amazing to have somebody who's in charge, right? Somebody who may not necessarily be a dancer or a singer, but can respect everything that we do and is so open to us creating whatever. So he had a lot of amazing ideas that we did end up using, but then there was times where we were like, well, let's not, we'll do that for the next thing.
Because did he like finance the whole thing?
Well, he was working, so he was hired by the people who run Gypsy and Piranha.
Okay.
So yes, he was in charge of like negotiating budgets and like things like that for us. So, I mean, we worked it out and we made it happen. I think the main thing for him and for Gypsy and Piranha was to create an event that is so different to what is happening there, that always happens there. Like whenever you go to the Fruit Loop and you go to Piranha, it's a club with go-go dancers and drag queens, you know, which is great. We love that.
Yeah,
we support that, of
absolutely.
course.
Here's my money.
Right. But they want to provide something different, something new. And Gypsy, even though it's in the same vicinity, it's still a different venue and it's more of like a lounge setting rather than a club setting. I mean, it can be a club, but when you've already got a club across the street, you don't really want to create the same atmosphere. You want something a little bit different.
Right.
And so that was what their goal is with us. Let's put a show in here. Let's do like anything that's outside of what we know in gay clubs. Like, yes, this is still a gay establishment. This is a safe space for our community, but let's give the community something different.
Right. So then what were some of his ideas that you were like, that's really awesome, but we can't do that?
Well, I mean, he wants, I think eventually, and it will come in time, you know, he wants to like rig the space for apparatuses and like things like that. And I'm like, yeah, let's eventually get there. You know, right now we've got this budget. So let's focus on what we can do with that. Right.
You're like, baby steps.
Yeah.
Okay, one step at a time up the staircase, buddy.
And I think that we're definitely closer to that now than what we were when we first started. Because I had this conversation with him, like, I want to say in November last year. And then with Ferly, I talked to her on New Year's Eve. So very close, pretty much, the conversations that were had. So we've done a lot in a year. And it's still growing and we're still trying to figure out like, how do we put something in that space that doesn't need to be a full production right now? Like maybe we can do a production once a month or whatever, but like they want something in there every week. So I think what we've figured out is live band for sure and singers and maybe like a couple of like atmosphere dancers who are there the whole time, like kind of like setting the vibe. I think that that's what we're going to try to work on and focus on for now until we can figure out like, when does the production happen? Is it at Gypsy? Is it at a different place? Are we going to have a big stage? Are we going to have the budget to hire a whole cast the way that we did before? I think yes, for sure. But it's all timing and scheduling. And that's what's so hard about being on this side of things rather than just being a performer. You have to consider everybody else's time and energy and availability and things like that.
Was that one of the logistical things that you learned the first time you guys put on the show?
Yeah. And it was a lot for me because I hadn't ever been in that position before, but I wanted to take the opportunity because it was being handed to me. And I thought, well, I'm going to grow from this regardless. Like it might go one way, it might go this way, but as long as I'm going, I'm learning. So that's why I just went with it. And I had no life, but I didn't mind that my life was busy creating. So I'm happy that I was able to be on that side of this process. Like normally I'm just a dancer or I'm hired only just to perform and that's it. But this time I was able to think of what songs to put into the show, what goes good together, what story can I say with this song, what visuals can I create for the LED screen that's in the venue. How does this cast member fit in this role or whatever, you know, things like that. So that was cool for me to be a part of. And, you know, I had a lot of help. I had Oscar, I had Ferly, I had Garrett. I had the help of some of the cast members as well and being inspired by them as performers and artists. And then honestly, the personal friendships that I had with people who maybe weren't necessarily part of the show, but they were still helping me, like Trevor, he's like my best friend. Like he was a person that I was venting to about everything. And so I think it's always good to have at least one person like that that's outside of it all, that you can like say, this happened today, or like, what do you think of this? Like, do you think this is a good idea? You know, so that helped me a lot, having that.
Was there any like point in this process from beginning to either opening night or the second show or even the third show that was really, really challenging that you didn't know how to get through?
Just trying to take care of myself and my basic human needs, like eating and sleeping. Those things I did not focus on when I was working, because it was...
Who needs those?
I know. It's because I was trying to wear a million hats at the same time. I was learning my music as a singer. I was learning the choreography as a dancer. I was scheduling everybody, trying to figure out everyone's availability on the tech side, on the dancer side, on the musician side, on the creative side with me and Ferly and Garrett and Oscar, trying to coordinate with everyone. Also working in shows at night, you know, trying to make time to go to the gym and grocery shop and all of these things. You know, that was what was hard about the process, was just trying to work, create, and be a human.
Right, because I don't know if you ever learned how to juggle.
No.
But that's a lot of juggling.
But I did it, and I'm happy that I had all of the help that I had. Like, I couldn't have done any of that without any of those people that were involved. And like my mom, she came down to watch the show, and I actually put her in the second show because she's a singer as well.
I find that the most adorable thing in the world. I love that.
I'm happy that I was able to get her to be involved.
Was it the first show or the second show?
The first show she came to watch,
okay,
and then the second show she was a part of. I put her in the show at the Virgin, which was really cool because the hotel set her up in her own room.
Stop it, wait.
And they like treated her like a queen. She was so cute. So I'm so happy that I was able to like give that to her.
I'm obsessed.
I hired my best friend, one of my best friends, Santi. He's a hairstylist. He works at Fontainebleau. I hired, well, I say hire, but he told me not to pay him. He came in, he like styled her hair and like, you know, she had all the things. So I was like, Mom, this is what it's like, okay?
She got the full treatment.
This is what Vegas life is like.
That's so adorable.
So I got to put her in the show, but I bring her up because she was noticing how stressed I was because I was just running around and I wasn't taking care of myself. And she's like, you haven't even eaten. Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, Mom, I'm fine. I don't have time. Let me get this done. Like running around all over the place.
Right, because I got to get this done before tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because if I don't get it done now, I'm never going to.
But she was so cute. You know, she would step out and get me a coffee or get me a snack or give me her leftovers that she didn't finish, you know. So of course she was just being a mom, you know. Yeah. But I'm just so grateful that I was able to have that experience and work with all of the people that I worked with, because now they're like my friends that I hang out with and see every day, and we are not done, you know. We're trying to take things one at a time. So we just opened Dita. Now we can focus on the next thing.
Right. Absolutely. Even though like this might be silly, but like even on the logistical side of trying to juggle all those hats, was there any difficulties in that? I know it's hard to juggle all those things, but like, or even if you came in for tech and there was something completely and utterly wrong that you like learned about.
Well, it was all new experiences for everyone, you know, because it was the first time that most of us were in a situation where we're creating something from zero, you know. I think that the hardest thing for me was when we were in Gypsy, because they had never worked with performers at the capacity that we were at. Like,
yeah, there were a lot of you.
A lot of performers, musicians, they never had live music in there. So trying to like engineer the sound and the lights and things like that. So I think it was hard for those people. I mean, I was kind of like, are you guys okay? I mean, I can't really do too much, but I'll tell you if it sounds good or not. But that was where Oscar came in, because he has the training in, you know, plugging in sound equipment, and at least for musicians, right? So that was good for me to have him there for that. And Ferly, she's just definitely like a woman of a million talents. So it was cool to work with her and watch how she worked, because she multitasks and makes it look so easy. And I'm just like, I'm good at multitasking, but I'm also like tired. Like, how are you performing? Because she was also dancing and singing too, you know? She's creating and choreographing, but she's also performing. And I'm just like, dang, girl, how do you? But I mean, it was nice to be around that. That was very inspiring. And she embodies that every day of her life. She is so passionate about what she does. So that's what was so amazing for me, working with her and feeling validated by somebody like her, you know? So yeah, I think that was just the hardest part, was just trying to figure out how to put a show up in a venue that's never had a show like that. But we made it work, and it was one of the biggest turnouts of people that they've ever had in that space. If I don't know if it was the biggest, I'm not too sure. I need to double check that. But it was honestly one of the best feelings I've ever had in my whole life. Just like having all of that support from your peers that are here in Vegas that are working. I had my family there that traveled from New Mexico. I had friends that I haven't seen in years come out here to support that, because it's a big deal to not just be in a show, but to put up a show.
Be part of that creation process. Yeah.
And so I have to remember that, because I forget. I'm like, oh, I did do that. And I did it 3 times. That's pretty cool, right?
And it takes time to put something like that together, you know, just because you had the idea back, and it looks like these conversations started, last November? And then your first show was?
In March.
March of 2024.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, takes time. Won't happen next week. It won't happen tomorrow. But I know that your first show actually did come together quite fast.
Yeah.
It kind of had to.
Well, it had to, because of Ferly, because she was like, this is going to happen. You don't have a choice. Like, I remember there was like a little bit of doubt that I had, and I was like, well, maybe, you know, if this doesn't happen. And she was like, no, change that. What you just said, no, this is going to happen
right now.
This is going to happen. And, you know, I think that's how she gets shit done, is because she has that mindset.
She doesn't give herself another choice.
You don't have a choice. You're going to make something happen. You're not going to give yourself the option to fail.
Yeah.
You know? And sometimes you do, but you have to put up a fight to make it happen. And that's what I definitely learned from her. And it all just comes from doubt, I think. Like, if you have your own insecurities and your own doubts and your own anxieties, like, you can't let that overtake everything. You just have to go for it, put everything into it. And I think if you do put your 100% like energy and passion into something, that it will grow and be something. And I think that's what matters.
You put a little of your own glitz in it.
I did. I sprinkled a lot of my glitz on that. Blood, sweat, and tears.
Blood, sweat, and tears with no fears. With no fears.
No fears.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's amazing to hear that it went up so fast, and it got such a massive turnout at the same time. So then when you guys went in and did it the second... Wait, hang on. Let me not jump the gun here. So when you guys transferred over to the Virgin, obviously, like, was that like little transfer hard for the second performance? Or was that like, oh, easy. Here's our light cues. Here's the sound. This is how it goes. Let's do it.
Well, I feel like it was a little bit easier because we had a proper stage. We had a proper... like crew and sound tech team. It was a proper theater, whereas in Gypsy it's a club / lounge. So we had to create a space within Gypsy to perform in. But at the Virgin, it was already like set up for us with like dressing rooms and all of that. So that was what was cool. That's what we as professional performers are used to. So in that sense, I think it was a little bit easier, but we did have to adapt the show to fit the venue. So that's why we changed it. I mean, we kept some aspects of it, but we did alter the show to fit the venue for the event that they wanted us to perform for, which was Pride, because it was Pride Month in June. So that's why we changed the show up a little bit, but it was honestly incredible. And I know we did do it a third time, and I said that it was more of like a cabaret style show, but we dedicated that show to the performer community and to the shows that recently closed, because there's been a lot of shows that have closed this year.
I love how adaptable your show is to like what is currently happening. That's really dope.
Because I think that's important.
It
and
is.
Now that I think about it, I kind of feel like our show is a variety show that adapts to, like I was saying earlier, whatever event is happening, just whatever's happening in our community here in Vegas, I guess. So that's what's been so cool for us. I mean, whenever you're a performer that works out here, your life kind of feels monotonous, especially if you're in like a full-time show and you just do the same thing every single day.
Yeah.
So for us, it's never like that.
Yeah.
Because you're always doing something different.
That's fun. So then when you had to change all those things around, was that a whole nother thing? Like, okay, call an Oscar, we got to rewrite these charts.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would have a lot of meetings separately with people. Sometimes I would just meet with Ferly, or sometimes I would just meet with Oscar. Sometimes we'd all come together just to like bring our ideas to life and to collaborate with each other. But everybody just, I love this city because people just want to like put their art out. They just want to create. And there's so many artists here that that's it. That's all they want to do. They just want to make art. And so that's what's been so cool about this experience, is just bringing all of my artist friends together to put something really, really special together.
And there's so many artists that like you call and they're there in a heartbeat because they just want to create so much. And that is another special thing about Las Vegas. So to me, that adds another level of respect to you and your show, because you guys see that and you acknowledge that idea and that concept and allow people to tell their own stories in your show, and then tell the stories of the artists on the Strip that may not even know about your show. I highly doubt that they don't, but like may not even know, like you are attributing that. And that's it's just beautiful. I just love it.
Thank you.
So with all of that, and then moving forward, is there anything like specifically you can say right now that you have taken and that you're going to implement moving forward?
So we are definitely performing weekly at Gypsy. They want to have the live band environment at least once or twice a week. I guess it just depends on the turnout of people that come. But yeah, that's what we're working on right now, is a late night after shows situation. So like I'm still working full time as a dancer in a show, and I get out at 10:30. So I would start at 11 and go until 12:30, 1, and that's kind of what we're going to start with. And then we'll just see what happens from there. We'll see how it does. But I performed 2 weeks ago for an event. It was the after party, and they hired me and my band to be there, and it was amazing. Like everybody was having so much fun. We had a special performance from Eureka. She's a famous drag queen out here. She's in the disco show. So she came and did a little pop-up. And then from that performance, I just did all like disco music. And so that was so fun. But I did like a poll on my Instagram to ask if that was a setting that you could go to as far as a gay club or a gay venue. Would that be something that you're interested in? And I only got yeses.
I love that.
So yeah, I think I'm happy to be a part of the change and like giving people something different to do whenever they go out. They get to, I mean, if you go to this part of town, we call it the Fruit Loop, you get to you have the option to go to a club where you can, party and be in a club atmosphere, dancing. There's like dive bars that are in the same area that you can just go and chill. But then you also have Gypsy, which is lounge, and you get live music, and there's like some food. They've got sushi and like pizzas and things like that. So I think it's cool that you can go to like one little part of town that's not on the strip, that's a safe space for the gay community to just have so many different options in what they want to do.
Yeah, that's amazing that it's become a whole experience of the night, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get to, or maybe not the night, maybe come back. That brings, also reason people to come back. So that's really cool that you're creating that. Is there anything, even like on the logistical side, like I should have started doing this earlier. I should have like done this differently now that I know how to produce this show. Is there anything like that you could share? Like, I'm going to create a sheet for the schedule instead of, I don't know, a text thread. Like something stupid that you're like, I didn't think about this, but this really helps.
Honestly, I did not think about paying myself. That was what I did not think of. So I'm doing all of this work that's probably worth like thousands of dollars, I'm sure.
Yes,
but,
you are. You are worth thousands of dollars.
I did not pay myself that. I was mostly wanting to take care of my cast and the people that were helping me put this on. My thing was, my success came from just putting it out. And I did not think about like, oh, I should get paid. I'm singing, I'm dancing, creating. I should probably pay myself, and I should probably pay myself well. I did not do that.
Remember earlier when you said artists just want to create and put their art out? Like it's kind of an Achilles heel, isn't it? And I'll just do it. Yeah, I'll be there. Of course, I'll just work.
So that's what I need to do all the time. Write in my price. I think that's something important for all artists to know that is their worth. And everybody has their own training. Sometimes they go to school for it. Sometimes they just train in experience. But we are all worth something at the end of the day. So that's what I need to work on, is knowing what that worth is and knowing what the price of it is. Because if money was no object, then it wouldn't matter. But we have to pay our bills and we have to, eat. Right? So I need to be better about understanding the prices for the skills that I have.
And it's so much easier to go to bat for someone else, right, than it is yourself.
I know, yeah. And that's the thing that I'm still dealing with now. But trying not to question my worth anymore, because I think I was doing that before. And of course, I didn't have as much experience as I do now. So now my worth is more than what it was maybe a few years ago. But financially, I'm saying. So that's what I am still working on, but I am better at it now because of this experience.
Questioning your worth, meaning like questioning if you think you can do it, or like how much you think you should ask for?
Both. Yeah, okay. Definitely both. More so, of course, putting a price on my talents and my skills, yes. But like, I think everybody should know that they can do whatever they want to do as long as they just put their mind to it and not let your fears and your anxieties and all of those things like really take over. Because that's normal. Of course, I had my own doubts and my anxieties, but then that's where like Trevor would come in to help me process those things and say, Ferly talked to you for a reason, So just do it, think of that. And then that helped me move on and get over my fears and just do it, you know?
So it was those small interactions with either Ferly or Trevor or any of your close people that slowly flipped your mindset when it comes to trying to get over your own insecurity. But what about when it comes to asking for your worth? Was there a moment that you were like, yeah, I am worth that, and I'm going to stick to it?
I would say that I'm more so like that, like now.
Okay.
Like today, more than I was a few months ago. So. Because
you've seen what you can do?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Or if like, and I think I learned that from Ferly. Like, you know, let's say there was a budget cut and someone says, can you cut one of your musicians? And I say, well, if that's going to happen, then we need to cut, like, I don't know, either a dancer or something else that's, you know, if you're going to cut something from me, then we need to cut something from you. Like, that's kind of what I've seen. I'm like, I don't understand why we need to cut at all. Like, let's work with what we can. And I think this is where my not paying myself came from. I'm like, then just take it out of what I'm supposed to get, you know, because I know that I want to have. Yeah, I want to have this group of people.
Yeah.
I don't want to get rid of anyone, you know? So, and I'm willing to do that. It is what it is. But then I also feel like if somebody's asking me to like cut something out, then I probably need to go find work elsewhere, right?
Did that happen a lot with this process?
No.
Okay.
No. But it's been a conversation that has happened before, you know? It's like, do we need to have 4 musicians? Yeah.
And that's how you came to the table with it, just like, yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm doing that.
But before were you kind of like, I don't really know.
I have to cut somebody. But no, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to be firm in what I believe in.
Yeah. So that was a whole learning process then for you, is to, I don't want to say be a bulldog at the table, but like be a boulder, be immovable, would you say?
Well, and I just feel like I was just having this conversation with one of my friends. He's a musician as well. And he's saying, well, you know, why do people settle for like a smaller price out here? Because he's from another state and he gets paid like double for something. And I was like, well, I mean, I think it's because there's a lot more competition out here. So if one person says no, then another person will say yes. And I think that that's the problem, is that we don't stick up for ourselves and for each other as a whole. You know, like we're only going to be paid more. We're only going to get benefits or whatever if we all stand together. And so that's what I'm trying to learn as well. So trying to just like, I know that I'm only one person, but if I have an opportunity to stick up and say, no, this is what we're worth, or I want to have this many musicians for this amount, then that's what it is. I mean, it should be more, but you know, we have to start somewhere.
We do have to start somewhere. And then it's having conversations with your peers and your friends and your fellow artists like this that can also agree with you and say like, yeah, let's do it. Or like, let's both say no to this thing, or let's, you know, find the support in each other. So I guess it was kind of scary. Was it scary? Was your first instinct like, okay, yeah, we'll cut him?
Well, yeah, because I've never been in that position of like that, having that kind of power or like that leadership. So, you know, you have to have a conversation and it's hard, but for the most part, people are understanding. So that's why you have to choose working with the right people, you know? So yeah, I'm learning a lot. I'm still learning a lot. And I think I'm just trying to take everything that I learned from all of the experiences that I've had, especially in entertainment, working in shows and working on cruise ships and just anything that I've had experience in now as a person creating and paying people. Like I want to make sure that the people that work for me are having good experiences. They're getting paid well. They're being treated well, you know, because sometimes they're not when they're working for other people or working for other companies or whatever. So I'm just trying to like be a positive leader in that sense.
And we always need more people like that
Mm-hmm.
to be that positive leader, to be that person that, you know, goes to bat and speaks up for others.
Mm-hmm.
And kudos to you.
Thank you
for learning and taking those stands and taking those conversations, because those are the conversations that like people don't know about, and like people don't realize that like, yeah, you're putting on a show and then all of a sudden somebody up top says, hey, you got to cut half the cast, and you're like, what?
Yeah. And it happens. Like I get it. Like we had to do that in Dita's show, you know, at Voltaire, because when we went from Jubilee to Voltaire, and Voltaire is a lot smaller. It's a smaller venue, smaller stage. So, you know, Dita and her team, they had to make sacrifices in only choosing like half of the people to come with her, which was really hard. And that was a hard thing about going back, was knowing that it wasn't going to be all of the same people, you know?
Right.
And I'm grateful. I'm so, so grateful that I was one of the people that she chose. But, you know, it happens in our industry. So I think that people need to learn how to have grace for one another and for themselves, you know. Sometimes you don't get chosen for something, and it sometimes doesn't have anything to do with you. You know. So,
oh, you were too tall, honey. Your opposite isn't that
I
tall.
know,
We don't have
exactly.
anybody to match you. Like,
yeah.
you know, has
And
nothing
it could
to do
be
with...
just as little as that. So I think that, you know, artists and performers and entertainers we have really thick skin. We're very resilient people because we don't have a choice. So, but I also think that it's important to like acknowledge like your feelings of having anxiety or being stressed about things. Like it's good to acknowledge those things, but I wouldn't say try not to live in it too long.
Yeah, don't identify with it. Yeah, or else it's a jacket you'll never be able to take off, right?
Yeah. Like it's okay to be sad about not booking that job, but it's okay. You're going to book the next one, or you're going to have another opportunity that's going to happen. Like that's just how it is.
Amen. When the right one is supposed to be there, it'll come along. I do have 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
One is, if you would give anybody listening any advice about starting a project, big or small, entertainment or not in entertainment, what would you tell them?
I would say to look in the mirror at yourself, acknowledge yourself, number 1, and say that you can do it. Sometimes you need a little reminder from your friends, from people that love you, to say, yeah, you can do it. But I think the main person that needs to say that is yourself. So like I was saying earlier, acknowledge your anxieties, acknowledge any negative kind of feelings that you may have, but don't live in those, because that's what's going to keep holding you back. You just have to like figure out how to deal with those things, but also let your joy and like the positive things be more than the negative, to like just to give yourself that confidence to do it. Like for me, it was the pandemic that really, really changed the way that I thought about things, because everything just stopped for all of us. And anyone working in the entertainment industry was affected no matter what kind of entertainment they were doing, because there was not a lot of jobs at all for any of us to do in that time. So now that things are normal again, for the most part, I've understood myself that I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Like if I want to do something, I need to do it now. I'm not getting any younger. You know, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, the next day, next month, next year. So why am I going to waste time just sitting around thinking about doing something? I just need to do it. So that's the advice that I would give for people.
I love that. I need to know your funniest show story, whether it was about GLITZ, whether it was on a cruise ship, whether it was Dita, Rouge, anything that makes you laugh, that you're like, oh my God, this one time. Just to end on a little high note.
Okay. I feel like I thought of something, but I don't know if I want to say because. Okay, so whenever I will say entertainers like to party, okay? Like performers, we love to celebrate. We always have something to celebrate. So
Don't be giving away all of our secrets now.
I'm not even gonna say who did this
Oh, I'm
because
so excited.
I don't want them to be embarrassed. But I remember it was after we had like just finished rehearsals and we were in rehearsals for a long time. This was a creative rehearsal process.
For a very specific show.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just like ready to party. So I remember we all went out, we had dinner. We were already lit at dinner. So we went out after that and it just was another level of all of us being lit and celebrating everything. And I remember my friend, they got so wasted. I got us an Uber and like they were like in the backseat just like, and I was like, please don't get sick because this is an Uber.
There's massive fees
And
for
I don't
that.
want to pay for that.
Yep.
And the driver was like, do we need to stop? What's happening? And this person got sick, but I caught it all in my hands because I said, I am not paying for this cleanup fee.
The commitment. Oh my God.
So I'm just like sat there with vomit in my hands. And I'm like, I love you so much. I have never done this for anyone. And me and that person are still very good friends.
Oh, you guys are never gonna part. You have held parts of them that no one else has held for them before.
But that's what I love about working with other performers and artists and entertainers is that we just live in the moment and we love each other. We treat each other like family because most of the time we're away from our own families. So we create a family with each other. And I know that we definitely have that out here in Vegas. Like every show that I've been a part of, if we have a friends and family night, the GLITZ show that we've been talking about, all of my friends are always there. All of my peers, people that I know in our community, they are there. They're screaming, they're clapping, they're supporting, they're encouraging. And I think if we're ending, that's a good thing to end on, I think, is how supportive this community is.
It's crazy. The amount of people that I know that have moved here from LA and New York that look and they're like, you guys clap for each other at auditions? We're like, yeah, boo. But
yeah, come on. Because we all want to work.
Yeah.
And I want to see my friends work and I want to see people succeed. And that's very special to have in a community.
Absolutely. Amen. One more thing. There is another GLITZ show coming up.
There is
one in the
we're
works.
talking about
other than the weekly ones that you kind of already mentioned.
We're trying to figure out like when to do it. It's so hard because everybody's schedules are like so crazy right now.
Right.
But technically the Dita cast right now at Voltaire is like my GLITZ cast.
Okay.
So if you want a taste of what GLITZ is, all you have to do is go and see
Love that.
Dita at Voltaire.
Love
I mean, of course, Dita is like the main character in the show, and she's not the main character of GLITZ.
Right.
We are inspired very much so by her with our costumes and talking about history because that's what she likes to touch on. But it will happen soon. I just have to get all of my ducks in a row and schedule myself to be able to do it. Schedule myself to eat.
That's going on the calendar.
Make sure I have the right budgets.
That's also going on the calendar.
So those are all of the things that I have to get together, but it'll happen and it needs to happen. I think it's an amazing show that we just need to keep building on. So
amen. And if people want to follow you, Instagram is the best place to follow
Yeah,
you. Will they see any postings if you decide to do Glitz again? Okay,
definitely.
amazing. And that'll be in the show notes, so you don't have to say what it is now. They
Estevan
can
Velasco.
click on it and read it.
Okay, yeah. You got it.
Okay, well, I love you, Estevan.
I love you too. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Keep doing this because this is amazing.
We will be doing it.
We did it!